going through here.
Hey, Scott. Scott.
Yeah, I hear you. What's up? Hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. All right, so we're almost up on 7. How would you? There's nobody here so far. How would you like to
How do you mean?
do this? The meeting. Are you going to run it? Do you want me to like introduce you? How you want to?
Yeah, why
This
don't
is your
you,
group.
how about you introduce me? Can you kind of set it up
Okay.
and everything, and then we'll go from there.
All right. 7. We don't want to start at 7 on the dot, right?
Oh, we can. Well, I mean, as long as there's people here.
All right.
So, I mean, whenever people get here.
Okay. It's only us so far, so let's see. And I can't get my camera because I'm streaming.
Dude, I've been having a spam number like calling me like 6-7 times today, like one after the other. I'm like about ready to throw my phone out the window. It's like the same number too. Like if you haven't gotten the message from the first time.
It's being recorded, Scott, so you might want to be careful
What's that?
about what you're saying about your spam.
Spam people can call me. There's nothing to hide about that. It happens to everyone. Data gets sold. Especially with loans now. I don't know if you guys are getting a lot of like loan offers, but I get like a refinance offer every other day in the mail on my phone.
My spam is all erectile dysfunction.
Mine's all mortgage stuff right now, which I'm considering because if they're offering 3% and we extend it out another 30 years, it'll drop my monthly payments so I'll have more cash flow every month. So it's probably a smart idea, considering I'll probably hold on to this as a rental when I get a house.
I'm gonna hop up and be right back on.
All right. nobody here to ask questions.
Yeah, I wonder if I put enough into marketing, and if we did it too late.
Right. And we can always try to, do it again, next month. Be like, all
Yeah,
right, hey.
we'll just do it again.
Mhm.
So about 45 minutes.
Give or take.
Okay.
I mean, you can always use the one I did for the other RIA, though, if you want to just put it up instead of redoing it again. And then this way, there's like, yeah, this way there is an audience and there is a question and answer at the end where people are asking me questions and I'm answering. So maybe we can just do that this way. This kind of looks like, you can even make it seem like, oh, this was the meetup. There were a lot of people there, even though it was something different. I don't know if you like cut off like Charles like intro about like the RIA.
What do you prefer? Do you want to go now, or do you want to do like a recording?
Let's do a recording. This way we're not reinventing the wheel. I mean, I do have other things that I can get to tonight. This way, compress time. I actually forgot to work out. I was like, oh wait, it's coming up soon. I don't have time to work out. So I can probably get my workout in.
Okay. All right, and then I know it's only 5 minutes, but nobody's here. Reconvene and talk about how we can make it better, how we can market next time.
Yeah. What do you think? We give them until like 7:15?
Yeah, I was thinking about like now, and usually you'll feel like up to like 7:30 with marketing, with networking.
Gotcha. I mean, I would want to give maybe 7:10 at the earliest. Give them like 4 more minutes.
Okay.
If nobody's here, it's probably. I mean, if they're 15 minutes late, they're definitely not. Nobody's jumping on. So we might have to rethink marketing, or maybe it was just done too soon, so it's too short notice for people.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's fine. Like we'll just continue running it because it got views as shit. But I don't know, like if you can see how many people registered.
Yeah, I gotta check it. And something was weird about those views because I only put $10, but they charged me $70. So
Whoa.
yeah, I don't know what that means, but I'm gonna be. And I've been going on with you, so
No, that's alright. Yeah, we'll look at it. We'll figure it out. For sure. Oh, show.
I'm muted the whole time. Dang.
Yeah, I got to mess around with my virtual background. You guys were saying that Zoom's better now, so I can probably do it right through Zoom instead of using Vcam.
Yeah. Hey, Rome. Should I share it through Meetup or should I share it through the regular Zoom link?
share what?
This meeting on my page.
I wouldn't share it. I wouldn't worry about it right now.
Okay.
I think we with it. I don't think we have enough time to market it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
All right. So we're saying that basically, if there's a certain time limit, then we're gonna
We're gonna cut it. Scott Cooper just played
the video.
So
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, the one I already did and just be like, hey, people were there. You can actually like make it look like it was the meetup, which is kind of cool. If you frame it right, you video edit a little bit.
Like Scott's what is it, Nigerian scammer?
Yeah.
The guy that held his video up that was like,
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, I saw a meme out there. It was like this guy in Nigeria with like he was in an apartment. It was like loaded with money. And he was like, he tried to give it to someone in the U.S., but nobody would call him. Like, that's great. He's got all his money now. What's he gonna do? Oh my God, the scammers are out there are insane.
I love the scams.
They are absolutely insane.
Hey, maybe you can go over a little bit about non-performers you can sell, Scott.
You want me to talk? We can talk about it now.
Yeah.
I have access to them. I can get you a spreadsheet strategy. Like I said, I don't have any experience in it, so if you got somebody to walk you through it, because I know the strategies are they're easy, right? You can forgive debt, you can recast the loan, change whatever you want on it. You can change the term, the interest rate, you can forgive debt. Like, you can do so many things with the actual terms of the note itself to get it working again. But I do know that it gets a little more complicated than just that. You know, you might have to have attorneys involved. You might have to, reach out to the homeowner directly and have a conversation with them, or have the servicer do it.
I'm not gonna lie, man. People are scared about nothing, man. I'll call somebody up, tell them to pay their bills, man. Listen, hello, did you pay it? You didn't pay the bills, so let's just keep it a buck.
Well, I mean, the servicing company does that for you. Like, I don't know if I showed you. I mean, I did show you my investors portal with
Yes.
Security National.
Yes.
And it shows you what they do. It's like, called Mr. So-and-so, Mr. Smith, reached voicemail, left them a message, said to blah, blah, blah. Like, they have every little detail in there. Not every servicing company does that. Security National is very high touch, which is why they're one of the most expensive. But like, servicing companies are like property managers. Each one's kind of good at something and kind of sucky at something.
Right.
So you got to learn what to do. Like, there's servicers that are better for non-performings.
Okay.
That they're better services, and I will reach out to my network and try to find out which ones those are.
Yeah.
What I do recommend, however, and this is what I recommend to everyone, even on the performing side, when you buy a note, regardless if it's performing or not, try to keep the existing servicing in place for at least 12 months if you can. I mean, if you got to go 6, that's fine. The only reason why we do that is because the note's changing hands. And if the note's changing hands at the same time, it's changing to a different servicer. Sometimes the homeowner gets confused on who to pay.
Right.
So just keeping it with the existing servicer, that's one change. They're comfortable with it. Nothing changes with their payment. Then maybe a couple months down the line, you'd be like, hey, we're moving this loan from Security National to Madison.
Right.
So then they understand the instructions better. They don't miss payments that they typically wouldn't miss.
Yeah, because I do have a mentor, so I think that might be able to help. So.
Yeah, as long as you got guidance in it. My mentor told me, he said, Scott, there are 2 sides of the business. There's non-performing, there's performing. He said, pick one, master it, and then move on to the next. So I'm still learning more about the different ways to move the performing side of the business, and then I'll invest in learning more about the non-performing. Although it comes up on our Wednesday night calls. Our Wednesday night calls are called like Water Cooler Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like just guys standing around the water cooler. So you got non-performing guys there, you got performing guys there. So I get exposure to it through those meetings. We also do an industry analysis at the very beginning, like what are the mortgage moratoriums going at and stuff like that. What is the default rate in this country? Right. So I get all that information as well, which is great. I intend to bring it on this meetup so people know what's going on with loans and real estate, just kind of a state of the industry. And then we can bring up, after the main presentation, we can bring up case studies. And again, just from those calls, we get other students on the call with me. I've got plenty of case studies to pull from. Just go, oh, look, this guy's looking at this one. And we go through different ways to buy it, different ways to structure it, selling partial payments, which is discussed in the presentation. So we can pull that through, and I can run through the numbers on my side with my calculators and show people later on.
Yeah, because what I'm looking for now is basically, with my money just sitting around, I got to do something with it. So either I got to put it somewhere where it won't lose money,
right,
and at the same time I still need access to it. So I'm like, okay, well, technically I can buy a non-performer and try to massage that, or I could put it in like a REIT or something.
Okay.
Some kind of dividend paying stock or something like that. But I don't want the stock to really go down. I just need something that's consistent, that's going to kind of stay the same for the most part.
You could put it in a REIT. I mean, it's one of the great strategies of the non-performing side is that you can flip paper like you would flip a property. You can take distressed paper, you can get it paying again, let it build some seasoning on it so it's got a credible pay history, and then go right out on PaperStack or whatever platform and try to throw it out there, or go to your other investor meetups and say, hey, I got a reperforming loan. I bought it here. It was this much in delinquent. And then say, hey, it's performing again. They've been paying for 1.5 years now.
Yeah. And
then sell it for more than you bought it for.
Yeah, that's the plan. I'm like, all right, let me at least spend it on that.
Or you can hold it for cash flow. Like, that's another great thing you can do with it, just like you would with a rental. You buy a distressed property, fix it up, rent it out. Instead, buy distressed paper, fix it up, and hold on to it. So it's up to you what you want to do.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm trying to find out those numbers on what I can buy. distressed paper at?
Mhm.
Because I'll buy it. I don't care.
Generally, somewhere around 50 cents on the dollar, 55 cents on the dollar and under.
50 cents on the dollar of what? The
The base value, the unpaid balance, and sometimes 65%. But you can usually get it pretty cheap.
okay. 50% of the unpaid balance.
Hmm
That's real good.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty good. It depends on your ability to negotiate selling price, obviously. The ones coming from the capital fund that I have access to, there's no negotiating. So the price I show you is the price. That's it.
As long as I can make money off it, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I'll run in when I get the spreadsheet set up before Saturday. I'll run in what the investment to value is, what your yield will be if you can get it reperforming, and we can play around with you changing the terms of the note and find out what your yield is then. We can figure that out.
Yeah, because I want to get people like, hey, look, listen, we know you didn't pay.
Mhm.
Pay your note, or else get out. So you know stuff.
I mean, I like my mentor's approach to it. He said 75 to 85% of the time we don't need to foreclose, and we don't take joy out of kicking people out of their homes. So if you don't have to, don't do it. I know guys that are predatory. They buy non-performing notes specifically to foreclose. Like they're gunning for the property. And there's guys who do that with tax liens. They'll go to a tax lien sale. They'll buy the tax lien so they're in a superior lien position to everyone else. And then they'll foreclose, grab the property, and kick the person out. And it's like, yo, man, some people just fall on hard times and they're starting to recover. Like you might want to get the story first and decide, is this really a deadbeat, or was it just someone who got laid off and just couldn't find more work after that?
Yeah.
Like,
no, I get it.
Story.
Look, man, as long as they pay, they can stay.
Yeah, just be like, hey, what can you pay? So I changed the terms of your loan to be around this much per month. Would you be good with that?
Good guy, Scott. So let me stop messing around.
Nah, but one of the things you want to do, I do know for sure, before you look at a note, is they call it there's 3 factors: is taxes, title, and blighted property. You want to look at the condition of the property itself. Because that'll tell you how they've been treating it, and if you're going to have to get any extra types of insurances on place while you hold on to it.
You know what I think is good? I'm going to say, listen, if the property doesn't need much work, I'm willing to let you go with no issues. But if the property needs work, you're going to have to go immediately because I have to fix it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. There's a special type of insurance, and I don't know how it plays into the non-performing space. It's called forced place insurance, and it's pretty damn expensive. But if you end up needing it, I do have a source that provides similar coverage for a lot less.
Okay. Yeah, bro. I want me a couple of, at least if I can. I don't know how much I'm gonna need, but I got at least like 25,000. That's all I got right now to spend on this.
You might be able to find a non-performing and get it reperforming for that.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
I'll keep that into consideration because I'm not gonna give you a note with a $40,000 sale price. No,
I'm just saying. I mean, if I can see whatever, then I can.
I can get them all for you. That's no problem. I get it in one quick shot. Just download it. I just spend some time formatting it so it's a little easier to read, and then that's it. Because it comes as a CSV, so I got to import it into Sheets and then make the data look nice. Maybe 15-20 minutes or so. I mean, not that long. Technically it is. I should have you guys sign an NDA, but I trust you guys. You're not going to go shotgunning assets and stuff.
Right. Well, so I think what Jerome is getting at, if I know this guy, if I know this guy, what he's thinking is maybe we can offer it as a value add.
What do you mean?
Check out the notes. You can blur it out. Ooh, look at these notes available.
Those would be the performing, that I would want to market to people.
Either one, I guess, don't matter, right? To you.
I wouldn't sell non-performing to a passive investor. That's not a passive.
Well, I mean,
but for someone like you, For someone like you who's looking like, hey, I want to look at some non-performings and try to mess around with this, then I'll show you.
I know a guy that wants a performing note right now.
Okay. Put him in touch. We can talk.
Yeah, I gotta figure out what he's doing though.
Yeah, send him my contact info or send me his. I'll reach out to him. One way or the other. And then if he buys a note from me, I give you half my commission.
Favorite.
For friends, it's half. Yeah. For other people, it's 1 to 3,000.
For friends and family, I love the friends and family discounts.
Well,
My favorite.
I initially started that because my friend Jared, right, I was trying to get him to do business with me because he's a natural, like, personable salesman, and try to utilize that part of his personality to help, like, sell people on it. And I said, yo, if you sell, which I know you can, I'll just split my commission with you, dude. I'm like, minimum 5K right there. We're just talking with people, and he just, how my friend is, he doesn't move on anything. He says he's going to do something, doesn't do it. So
He's dead weight.
mm-hmm.
Fake news.
And that's why I'm like, oh, hey, what's going on? Well, if I have free time, we'll hang out for like a couple hours, but I'm not really putting too much stock otherwise in that.
Wow.
Like I hung out with him this weekend because I haven't seen his son forever, and I'm like an uncle to the kid.
Mm-hmm.
But man, so I hung out with him for a little bit. It was good to see his son. He's getting so big, man. Looks like a teenager.
That's good, man.
Yeah, he's a good kid. He's hyperactive as hell, though. Hyperactive as hell. But we were playing WWE Beatdown.
Does he have non-performance?
Who?
The kid.
The kid?
Yeah.
Why would he have non-performing?
Well, I don't want to talk about him, though, man. So I'm joking, man.
This motherfucker.
Same though.
Right, I got you.
I'm messing around, man.
I know. That was good.
Thanks, man. I try.
That was good. Yeah, I mean, non-performers could be good. We see definitely a lot of them coming down the pike. It's going to be a thing. It's already kind of a thing, but there's a lot of jokers that get in this game too. There are a lot of guys that rush to the non-performing space. They're like, yeah, I'm going to try to buy some non-performings. They don't have a mentor. They have any kind of training. They're just going to try to like do what you used to do, Carlos, and like shoot from the hip. I'm like, man, You're going to get sued. You're going to get fined. You're gonna wind up in a state that has like New Jersey, a 2-year foreclosure process, and can cost upward of 50 grand. You're gonna like bite off way more than you can chew. But yeah. Oh, definitely. Because now investors and lenders can start to mess around with the loan terms to get people paying again. Or they can take the property and profit that way. Before that was kind of seized up because if they weren't paying, you couldn't do anything. I mean, you could still change. There were still ways of changing the terms and the conditions of the note to make it easier to pay with the moratorium in place. It was just a little more difficult, a little more red tape because it's government controlled. And in general, when government has more control, things get more complicated. But the other thing you want to look for, Carlos, I said there's blighted property, there's taxes and title. You want to see how bad the taxes are, and you want to make sure that you can get clear title to the property.
Yeah.
That's the other thing to do is title research, which, I mean, I got a company that does title reports. If you want a title report, I can get you a title report.
Hey, what PaperStack needs verification now?
What's that?
PaperStack.com needs verification?
For what?
I guess just in general.
I haven't been on PaperStack in forever. Once I saw kind of how like it's kind of fishy depending on who you get, I was like, I mean, they have some really good legitimate sellers on there and people that I've seen in this space other places. But you also get these like kind of like scammers. These guys are brokers or they're broker daisy chains. They don't even own the note, and there's not even enough like meat left in the deal for it to even be profitable.
Oh wow.
It's an online note trading platform. So it's kind of like you get to post your notes that you have for sale. You post all the information, and then that one allows you to bid. So you can make an offer. You say, hey, they want it for this much. You can offer them lower, and you can negotiate price. Yeah, kind of. There's a couple other platforms like that. One, I'm pretty sure it was called PPR or PPK. That's another one. And Note Trade X is another online note trading platform. They're all free to join. But that's the thing, like they're free to submit too. So they don't really do like a third party or vetting process on your legitimacy. It's just basically, oh yeah, you can post it up for free, go ahead. And it's like, okay, well, you might not even own the note. You might not be a professional.
Yep.
You might not have all the paperwork in order.
Leave it up to them, in my opinion.
Right, well, yeah, you should. That absolutely. That's why you just gotta be careful. You just gotta know what to look out for, what questions to ask.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Most people, they just want to do it.
Yeah. There's a lot of cases where I've talked to note sellers who, these are mom and pop note sellers, but I go, okay, we're gonna need the original note and mortgage. Do you have it? And they're like, no. Like they're the legitimate note holder, but they lost all the paperwork. And it's like, well, we're gonna have to file a lost note affidavit to get that. And that's gonna cost about $100. So
Scott,
you're gonna have to pay that. You're gonna have to pay that because you lost the paperwork, not us.
They better if they want to sell.
Yeah, I mean, if they want their cash.
Yeah, I'm trying to get me some of that, man.
Yeah, I think non-performance would be good as long as you got that guy guiding you, and then you decide for yourself when you get to that point. You're like, hey, do I want to hold this, or do I want to sell it for some cash and try to do some more deals?
Yeah, man, I'll do whatever. I don't care. I'll just hold it until I'm ready to buy something from somebody. I'm like, look, who want to buy this note?
Yeah, or you can bring it up on the prop swap for a query and be like, hey, I got this note, it's reperforming. I'll trade it for boom.
Let me find out. Scott understands.
Yeah, they eventually get paid off. So, like the whole play for building wealth using notes is to put a lot of extra cash aside. Like you're getting a monthly payment, but you don't need all of that. Put it aside, save it up, continue to raise capital, so that way you can go out and source and buy more deals. So you constantly have deal flow going. Because yeah, after it reaches maturity, the payments stop. So that's one of the downsides of it compared to a rental, because a rental you can hold on indefinitely and continue to cash flow that.
Paper Stack's dead. It's not working anymore.
Nah, yeah, they probably got shut off. There was another one called FCI, and I think they got shut down too. FCI is a servicer, but they're known as like one of the worst. My mentor, when he brings them up, he was like, whenever he talks about them, he goes, you can always board it with FCI and service it yourself. Because that's basically what you end up having to do if you use FCI. They don't do anything.
I'm getting a call from Scam Likely.
Oh yeah, that's what I keep getting. Like all day, 4 or 5 times a day.
You're on somebody's list, man, so they can download your voice.
Well, yeah, that's probably it.
They're like,
They're going to create deep fakes.
Exactly. They're going to be like, Scott's going to be like, hello?
Yo.
And that's all they needed. They're going to.
No, I'm not answering at all. Yo, but in the next 20 years, like that's going to be legit a thing, man. Like actors and actresses, their CG is going to be copied perfectly. Their voice is going to be copied. They're not going to need the actual actor or actress anymore.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, yeah, we already got you downloaded into the system, man. You're done. We got everything we need from you. We'll give you a royalty for your image and voice, but that's about it. They might bring Bruce Lee back, though, which is a good thing.
Bruce Lee?
You're going to bring Bruce Lee back. Yes. Yep, first Monday of the month, 7 to 9. Mm-hmm. Yep, passive investing, truly passive investing. And better returns, because, you know, like when you put money into the stock market, if you go to like an index fund or, you know, an ETF and you lay your money in it, you know, someone's managing your money for you, but generally you're not seeing like 6 to 8% or even 10%. It's generally well lower than that. And sometimes you lose money. Yeah. Yeah, but it's for passive investors. That's what the presentation's designed for. But I was presenting to real estate investors, so I kind of framed things a little bit more when I was doing it, just because I was considering my audience. Like when I would do it for a group of you know, people who aren't involved in real estate, I would simplify things or not bring some of those things. I haven't, no. Yeah, I guess.
Got to.
It's just a little bit shorter because it doesn't have the real estate stuff thrown in there. That's all. It'd be a little bit shorter because it's just really going to go through the slides.
Yeah, maybe you think he should go through a presentation about that, like just one for like have one presentation for investors, another one. I mean, like for like the uneducated investors, and then the ones that are educated already, or something. I don't know.
I mean, I think passive investors will understand that one as well because I didn't get too deep into the real estate stuff. At least I don't think I did. So I think they'll be all right understanding that one. I mean, the bulk of the presentation itself, that's why it starts off with the stock market, then it goes over to notes. And then it stays focused on notes from then on out. So I don't really bring in rentals or anything like that into the conversation.
Paper stack review.
Are you looking at it now?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a pain in the behind because like the site doesn't work anymore. They want you to verify they want you, or maybe it's just me. Maybe it's my computer.
What do they want you to do?
They want you to verify your ID now.
Okay, well that's good.
Right.
That's a step up from before when I saw it.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, not good. I have an account. When I first came out, I created an account and I was looking around on there. But okay. Yeah, we can do that. What did I put in there before? Notes and alternative investing, I think is what I put in there. But like, we can change the name. It may change over time. No toilet. Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, hey everyone. All right, hey everyone. Thank you for joining today and learning about note investing. A little bit about myself. My background is in behavioral psychology. I work with the disabled full-time. About 2 or 3 years or so ago, I got involved in real estate. And through my education and my reading, I learned about note investing, which is essentially the only truly passive way to invest in real estate, in my opinion. And it's been my mission to try to share this with other people who might not be aware of it. People that have money sitting aside, their investment dollars or their retirement investment dollars are not doing as well as they would hope they would. The stock market goes up and down all the time. It's an emotional roller coaster. And this is one way that people outside of real estate can get involved in a passive way and still continue to earn above stock market returns and above other vehicle returns like CDs and mutual funds. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we can get into the presentation. Let me see 1 second here. Go. Okay, can we all see that? Nope, not that. Cancel. Where is that? It's not. 1, 2. There we go. Hold on. Don't know what happened there. Are you still there? Is the screen still shared? Okay, let me go back to that. I was trying to get it full screen and I don't know what happened. So my apologies, everyone. We'll get that up as soon as we can. Here we go. It should be. There we go. Let me hit share screen real quick. And we should be good to go. Can you see that? Okay, perfect. So note investing. What is note investing? Well, first let's go back to some of the financial ups and downs that most of us experience when we have our money tied up in investments, either through a brokerage or via our self-directed retirement accounts and things of that nature. We'll cover some of the things that happen there, and then we'll bridge into what note investing is and how you can benefit from it. So let's move forward with that. Okay, so right now I want to take you all back to the 2008 crash. We know that it hit real estate really bad, but it also hit the stock market as well. They lost 91 billion, lost out of the stock market in 2 days. That's insane. And so stock market had issues, money came out of the stock market, came out of people's accounts, and people are kind of wondering where their money went. The reality is, if you know anything about stock trading, it literally goes out of your account and into someone else's who was betting against that company. So it's really just a matter of what those companies were doing at the time and how profitable they were. And if you're not actively involved in trading, you wouldn't know what to do. This is why passive investors put their money in managed funds, or they let it sit in index funds or within retirement accounts, because they don't want to have to actively manage and know what companies they're investing in are doing and how they're going to do in the next couple of years. It's kind of just not a good situation to let your money sit, especially with like 401ks. There are people who have lost millions after the market took a big hit. So here, as you can see, a graph from October 2014 to 2016. The market goes up, it takes these big dips every once in a while. And this is really just market cycles. It's in general, what proponents of the stock market say is that it has an upward trend, that it constantly kind of goes up, but we'll see these bigger crashes over here. And like one we're experiencing now in the wake of COVID, we've seen some pretty big crashes there as well. So it leaves investors wondering what's next. They don't know what to expect. It ends up being a big roller coaster. Here we have another graph of the S&P 500, which is an index that some people trade. And again, we have that similar pattern. It goes up, it comes down, it goes up, it comes down, and it goes up again. And nobody knows when it's going to go down. And in these periods, a lot of investors, if you're paying attention to your accounts, fall into emotional selling. They want to sell out before they lose too much money. Then it comes back up, and then they end up kicking themselves. And what we get is we get something that feels a little like this. Now, I don't know about you guys. I love roller coasters, but I don't like roller coasters with my money. I started a Robinhood account when I very first started investing and invested in Fitbit, and I lost money, and I did that very same thing. I emotionally sold when I saw I was losing too much money, and then I ended up missing an opportunity to make more money. It's not something I want to do, and investing in general should be something that you don't have to think too hard about or become too worried about. You should be able to place your money in an account or an investment vehicle and let it grow for you and be secure in the fact that it can grow. And real estate notes can offer you the opportunity to do that by providing the security and stability that real estate has to it. So here we go. Why notes? Why are notes a good thing? There's a surge of growth ahead. Notes are a really good area for selling properties, and real estates and big financial institutions are creating notes on the thousands every year. So let's go ahead and take a deeper look at what is a note. Even a lot of people in the real estate department, in the real estate field, they don't necessarily know what notes are exactly. Those more experienced do. So I'm going to break that down for you guys right now. It's pretty simple once you see it, and you're going to be like, oh, okay, I get it. It's very easy. So just bear with me. This right here is a note. If you look at any one of your dollar bills, pull one out of your pocket, you'll see on the back somewhere, it'll say US Treasury note. Another type of note is a check. So a lot of us people don't pay by check anymore, but those of us who are a little bit older do know about writing checks for utilities and things of that nature. That's also a type of note. People who have borrowed money to buy a car have had a car note they're paying. It's the loan. And then we leave ourselves with what I deal with specifically is real estate notes. So all the note is it's a shortened term for the legal word promissory note. And all that really is just the loan itself. So if you've ever paid a loan, you've paid a note, and your bank or whoever lent you the money was the note holder. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So these are what we're going to focus on today. Mortgage notes, everybody. These are the ones that I choose to focus on. They're longer term. They have the stability that real property has, and they give you protection. So this is the mortgage note I was talking about. This is a promissory note, and the various components of it are the same that you've paid before in the past. you have terms of agreement. So you'll have a loan amount. In this case, we'll say it's $100,000. You'll have an interest rate on that note, this one. And for the sake of all math in this presentation, we just use 10% as just a across the board percentage because it's easier to do the math with that. We don't want to bog things down when trying to figure out percentages throughout the presentation, but it's not always 10%. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. You'll have your terms, which is the number of months you have to pay. And then you'll have calculated from that a monthly principal and interest payment. So you'll go ahead and you will sign that document and that gets filed with your lender. And from that point forward, you begin making a monthly payment to the bank. All right, that's your home buyer. So right now we're going to go through what a typical real estate transaction looks like, and we'll see how a note investor comes into play in this process. So over here we have our seller. He's got a home he's trying to sell. He wants to sell it for $110,000. He has a potential buyer, looks at the house and decides, you know what? I like it. It sounds like a fair price. I want to buy the house. It looks good. It's in a great neighborhood, has great schools, good for the kids, that kind of thing. So of course, Mr. Buyer over here, usually, and most people in the United States don't have $110,000 just laying in the bank somewhere. If you do, congratulations. I would like to be your best friend, just playing. But really, the majority of us in this country have to go to a bank and qualify for a loan. So the buyer gives the seller a $10,000 down payment, which goes directly to the seller at closing. And the bank, after all the paperwork is filled out, gives the buyer the $100,000 for the remaining purchase. And in return, the buyer signs the mortgage note. So you'll have two documents, which is the note, and then you'll have the mortgage that secures the note with the property. So if you don't pay, the bank has the right to foreclose. That amount will go to the seller. The deed then gets signed over to the new homeowner. So now this guy owns the home and he's happy. Now he has the $100,000 to pay on a mortgage. And he starts making monthly payments to his bank from this point forward. Here's where our note investor comes into play. He goes over to the bank, and banks traditionally take all of our money and they try to invest it and try to find high yield investments all the time. So our note investor comes over to the bank and says, hey, to the guys at the bank, I see you got some notes and I see that you have some ones that I'm interested in. I'll make you an offer. And the bank says, oh, you know what? We got some other investment stuff coming up that we really want to put our money into. We could use some cash now instead of waiting to get it all 1 month at a time. So the investor makes a cash offer to the bank. And when they reach an agreement, our investor pays the bank and the bank gives the mortgage note to the investor. So at this point, nothing really changes for the buyer. The buyer has one major change, and that's it. And that is, instead of paying the bank, the buyer now pays this new investor a nice cash flow stream every single month. So it's pretty simple. Once you buy a note and you own the note, you start receiving the payments as the new lender. And it's great because it's passive. You can hook it up to your bank accounts and that money just keeps coming in. So let's go over a little bit of a practical case study. We have a fictitious investor here named Joe LeCount. He's in Rogers, Minnesota, I think. If I'm wrong, I apologize. And he finds a property in Ocala, Florida. Current market value of it is $42,000. The manufactured home, double wide with land, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,368 square feet. Now he's not going to buy this property itself. What he's going to do is he's going to buy the mortgage note on the property. So instead of owning it, he becomes that new lender that we saw on the slide before. This is a performing note. The person living here has been paying on time. That's what performing means. If they stop paying, we call it a non-performing note. But the notes that I focus on specifically and the ones that I recommend passive investors getting involved with, of course, are performing. You want to have that being paid. So let's take a closer look at this property here. You have the mortgage note. He purchases it for $31,125 and it has 203 payments remaining on it. The value of the property is $42,000. So we have a good amount of equity there that it's being built up, protecting the note. If this person should fail to pay, you could foreclose on the property and you would essentially have $42,000 in value that you could sell in real estate to recover everything and even make yourself a nice profit. So here we go, 42,000. This is a first lien. He's got a whole nother 37 payments cushion there, also securing himself, that have already been paid on the note. And because it's a first lien, he's in a position where he gets paid off before anyone else. So again, that's another form of protection in the realm of foreclosure, should that happen. When I work with investors, I do my very best to make sure that is not likely the case, and it's more likely that it will pay off early. But we just have to remember that's always a risk. This note here, he paid for it with his IRA. So I don't know if anyone knew this, but you can actually purchase notes out of a self-directed retirement account where that money will grow tax-free until you take disbursements later in your retirement. So that's one very powerful strategy to use and to help grow your retirement funds, as well as current funds if you're investing actively or passively. Move on to the next slide here. Okay, so from that point forward, in this guy's retirement account, he gets a $318 a month payment every single month. He purchased the mortgage note for $31,125. January gets a payment, February, and the payments just come in. Now, I know we have a mailbox here. It's a coined term that we use in this industry, as we call it mailbox money, but really it's a direct deposit going into one of your bank accounts every month. So at 203 times, he has 203 payments left. The amount of money he makes total over time is $64,554 from an initial investment of $31,000. That's a pretty good profit. That ends up being an effective annual interest of 10%. So imagine if you had a high yield savings account that was a 10% annual rate and you just parked money in there. This is the same result that you would get. Now, I don't know that anyone's ever seen them that high. I've certainly not. And this is why I think this is the best way to passively invest in real estate. You can get higher than your savings account, higher than managed market returns. You can get just an overall general rate, and you still have that stability of real estate in there for you. So this investor, in this case, he decided to buy the entire note. So this is a long-term deal. This is a long-term payment, but that's not the only option that we have. Once he owns the note, he can sell some of the payments. He doesn't have to sell all of them to recuperate some of his investment money. And when he sells some of those payments, he keeps the rest that he's waiting for. It's held by the seller, motivated to be paid, remaining 83 payments. So the front end investor that he sold, he pays $24,063. He ends up collecting a total of $38,000 from his initial investment, $160. And then after those 120 payments have been made, the note goes back to the seller. As you can see, our front end investor made, again, a 10% annual interest rate if you were to factor that out. And our back end investor, the original owner, he backs the front end. After the 123 payments, the note reverts automatically back to him and he starts getting $318 a month again. So you can invest in notes for a smaller amount, a short term, or you can base it off of a longer term investment. The flexibility is really there depending on what your goals are. So this is what we call in the industry a partial purchase, right? You bought the whole note, you sold part of it. So that person who bought it, they bought part of the note, not all of it. So we're gonna look at this graph here. We kind of have it separated between the full purchase and the person here in the blue that made the partial purchase, the 120 payments. So those are the 120 payments there and shaded in blue. And if this pays off in 5 years, let's take a look at what it looks like then. Because like I said, the notes that I suggest that my investors buy are usually ones that I feel have a high probability of paying off early, or at the very least paying as agreed. So in 5 years, if it pays off in 60 periods or 60 months, he gets a $26,000, $551 payoff amount. So the partial investor, the original owner gets the 26. The partial investor gets $14,976 after already collecting $19,080. So the total he gets from this is $34,056, which is again an annual interest rate of 10%. So now that we see there's different ways to kind of carve these things up and be flexible in investing in notes, and we see that it can be very, very passive. Managing a note, the method that we suggest, makes it even more passive. In years past, when you bought a note, you had to keep track of it yourself. But those days, and with the inventions of technology, those days are long gone. There are companies out there that service loans or third-party servicing companies. I always recommend using one of these. They basically do everything for you and take all the heavy lifting out of the equation. All you have to do is receive your payment. So they do all the work. And some of the services they provide is they collect the payments, they send the invoices out, they process credit cards, they have online portals to make online payments, set up automatic bill pay. You can also pay by mail if you still want to pay the old way. They escrow taxes and insurance, so you as the note holder never have to worry about the property having its insurance and taxes paid. And they will make sure that's taken care of. They make sure you stay licensed and compliant. In some states, you're required a debt collector's license in order to service a loan. These companies hold those licenses and keep you compliant so the federal government doesn't fine you, which is always a good thing, I think. And they also can handle borrower workouts. So should your note stop performing or the person stops paying, they can step in as a mediator between you and the person paying, the homeowner, and try to work out something to get them paying again. And we find in this industry, typically when a note goes non-performing, roughly 78 to 85% of the time, a foreclosure is not needed. We can work something out. We can get the homeowner paying again, and everything just picks up as normal. It's one of the things I love about this industry is the flexibility. So you pay the loan servicer. They usually take it out of the payments you receive. So you never ever pay them directly. When they receive a payment from the homeowner, they take out their servicing fee. They disperse the rest to your account that you've given them on file. And the remainder goes right to the note owner. It just gets collecting into your bank account. And it's truly, truly passive. You don't have to do any work. And I can attest for this. This is what I do. The first note that I bought was about 1.5 years ago on a property in Rockford, Illinois. And since then, it's been paying me $200 a month like clockwork. And it's just wonderful to get a notice from my bank. And it's like, bloop, you have a deposit. I go, oh, wow, that's awesome. And I didn't have to work for it. It's one of the best things I've found in real estate to date. And so it's great. Everything's outsourced. You don't have to deal with it yourself. And it's just one of the most beautiful things that you can have. So you outsource everything. You own a note. You don't have to manage it. You don't own the property. You don't have to deal with tenants, toilets, or termites. If the homeowner's water heater breaks, that's on them. They own the house, not you. And this is one of the greatest strengths about notes that I have seen, is that you have a way of profiting from the property as if it were a rental, but you don't own it and you're not legally responsible for it. They are the homeowner. They are responsible for everything. All right, let's move on. Usually I would open the floor to questions at this time, but since this is just sort of oh, you have questions, go ahead. Sure. Oh, great. Sure. Okay, so sure. You're talking about buying a house in terms of a rental? I mean, because buying a house, there's only really two reasons to buy, right? It's either to live in or to rent. So how it compares to a rental is that it takes all of your responsibility out of what goes on with the property. So you're not responsible for fixing anything. If somebody sprains their ankle on your steps or breaks a leg falling down the steps because a step broke, they're not going to come after you and sue you, and you're not going to have your insurance be responsible for it because you don't own the house. You only own the debt against the house. So that's how it compares to rentals and why I would advocate for that better. I don't want to be involved with it. I thought about getting rentals myself, and I'm like, well, what if this happens and that happens, or I get a call in the middle of the night, or even if you have a property manager in place, the property manager might call you, tell you that you need some big repairs. And then that whole repair cost comes out of your monthly rent payments. So you're not making as much per month anymore. With notes, that doesn't happen. The payment you receive stays the same until the note is paid off. REITs don't in general give as high as of a 6 to 8 or a 10% return. Some do. If you do find those and you're more comfortable doing that, that's fine. But what you need to know with a REIT is that you don't have any control. You're essentially giving money to a group of investors to take your money and do other things with. When you own a note, it's your money, you're in control, you have contact with the servicer, everything is right out there in front of you. So if something should happen, you know exactly what's happening. Well, the greatest and the only risk would be that of a non-performing situation where the homeowner just defaulted on their mortgage. And then you would have to decide how you want to deal with that. And what I do with my investors is I say, if it ever stops performing on you and you're concerned, reach out to me and I can help you, or I can put you in touch with other people that will. Like I said before earlier, between 78 to 85% of the time, we don't need to foreclose. You can change things about the note you bought. For example, you can change the interest rate to help the person pay, or you can change the term left they have to pay it, so you can stretch the payments out to reduce their monthly payment. You have a lot of flexibility in terms of what happens if things go into default. The worst case scenario is that you have to foreclose. And in that situation, what I do to protect my investors is I always look for notes in non-judicial foreclosure states, which means that in order to foreclose, you don't need a court action. You can utilize an attorney as long as you follow the state's statutes. You can foreclose. It's a whole lot cheaper. It's a whole lot faster if you need to get into that. I also offer my investors a strategy to get a property sold quickly if that should happen, especially if the property is out of state. But I do urge my investors to avoid judicial foreclosure states. For example, I'm in New Jersey where a foreclosure can take up to 2 years. And you can bet in that 2-year period, the lender is responsible for keeping the taxes paid and making sure the property is insured. So it's going to have a lot of costs, as well as you have the court fees because we're a judicial state. So I always try to find notes that are in non-judicial states because it's just a cheaper way of having to get access to the property. Should that happen, as I said before, the vast majority of the time, that's not necessary. Yeah, sure. What should you look out for? In terms of what, can we be a little more specific? Well, the general pitfalls for buying a note is actually what I do as my service is I eliminate all that and I make the process as simple as it could possibly be. There are steps, just like with real estate, that you have to do your due diligence. There's a due diligence process involved. And what I remove from the entire equation is the need for that due diligence process. So typically what I'll do is I'll talk with an investor and get what their investing goals are, and understand where their risk tolerance is and what they're really trying to have their money do. And then I will go through the process of sourcing the note, negotiating the price, underwriting it, doing all the due diligence, checking title, taxes, and all that. And I will bring the best deals that I think are stable to my investors. And I'll show them and go through them with a property listing and a note listing and show them what their annual year-on-year profit looks like. I'll break down everything for them. And if it looks good, if it's within their goals and they tell me yes, all they have to do is be ready to fund it. There is like closing costs involved in a note transaction. There's also a boarding fee when you have a loan boarded with a servicer. I pay for all that. And if it's a note in mortgage or a note in deed of trust, you also need to get it recorded with the county or municipality that the property resides within. I have a digital system that does that for a pretty menial cost, and I eat that cost as well. So I really take the entire process of note investing out of my investors' hands and let them be passive. I'll show you what I have and what I found. If you like it and you're ready to fund, that's all you need to do. Everything else. Sure. Okay, well, that depends on what term you purchase. If you buy the back end of a note with a short term, it's going to be less time. But in general, about half of the term you bought is where you start making your money back and you start earning that interest. Every payment is, part principal and part interest. Your most profitable that you can find with notes is when you buy a note that has maybe only a couple of years on it, because with a note and mortgage, it's amortized. So the beginning payments are mostly interest and very little principal. And as it progresses through that schedule, the balance shifts. And when about halfway through the term of the loan, it's about equal, and then it becomes more principal and less interest. So the most profitable to buy is to buy towards the beginning of the loan, because most of what you're receiving is interest, not the principal. So for example, like I said earlier, when I said that I aim for notes that have a good probability of an early payoff when as profitable. However, if you do the math as if you were to park your money in a savings account with the yield that I quote to my investor, it's the same amount of profit. So if I quoted my investor a 10% annual yield for 5 years, if you ran the calculation based on a savings account, the profits are the same. Yes. Yeah, eventually it will run out, which means that they will pay off. There will be a zero balance, which is something you have to keep in mind. Whereas with a rental property, you can rent it out indefinitely. So yeah, that will affect the overall of your portfolio. However, if you're utilizing other sound financial strategies, like instead of spending the monthly payment, you're letting it go into the account and just build. When it pays off, you have all of your money plus the interest that you've earned, and you can take that again and go buy another note or another investment. So the idea is to keep the money constantly cycling. Sure. Okay, sure. Yeah, I gotta, just to reiterate and simplify, I don't think we need to go back to the slide for that, but when you buy a house, you sign a lot of paperwork, a lot of paperwork. The two most important documents you sign is the promissory note and the mortgage. Those two go together like a pair. They're kind of like a couple. So the promissory note is just your financial obligation to repay the loan from the bank. So it dictates the terms. How much did you borrow? What interest rate are you going to pay? And how many months do you have to pay it back? And then what your monthly payment is based off of that. That's all a promissory note is. That's all that's in it. You sign it. The mortgage is what we call the security document in this industry. And the reason why we utilize that is because every state does not use a mortgage. Some states use a deed of trust. Some call them a trust deed. But no matter what you call it, their purpose is exactly the same. It pledges the property as collateral for the loan they gave you. And that's all it is. We call it the security document. It secures the bank's loan to you by allowing them to take the property if you stop paying. And so when you buy a note, you're buying both. You're getting both the security document and you're getting the promissory note. Okay. So when you buy a stock that has a dividend payment, they're usually a pretty good stable company, which honestly, I think they're very good investments, but they're still subject to their given market's ebbs and flows. So if you have a market crash, you start receiving significantly less in dividends. You lose money. So, I mean, everybody's taking that risk when you put your money in the stock market. Whereas when you buy a real estate note, that say it's a $500 monthly payment, doesn't matter what the stock market does. That's still $500 a month. It's the same amount of money that comes in every single month. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down. I think we already discussed the risks are mostly default, just a cessation of payment. With real estate, if you have rental units, you have squatters, you have vacancy, you have maintenance, you have terrible tenants that you're going to have to deal with. You have property managers to manage. If you're doing fix and flips, you have contractors to manage. You have to know how to evaluate what a repair cost is going to be. And that takes a little bit of learning if you're not involved in contracting or home repair already. If you're someone new, that's a very steep learning curve. Very steep. And there's also the risks that the projects don't get done on time. Also, you have to deal with selling the property, and the selling the property, it's dependent upon how the real estate market is going at the time. Is it a seller's market or is it a buyer's market? With a real estate note, it's already financing in place. It's already making money. It doesn't matter what the real estate market is doing. As long as the person is still living there and paying their mortgage, you continue to receive the payment. There's a lot in terms of real estate right now that are going kind of sideways because of what we've seen. So I like mortgage notes because it does offer more stability than we see going on in real estate at the moment. Right now we're seeing, because of COVID, we're seeing a lot of non-performings come up. And now that the moratorium's been lifted, there's going to be a lot of workouts from private note investors getting these notes or reperforming again and possibly selling them. So we got a lot of reperforming loans, is what we would call that are primed to hit the market for people to purchase. What do you mean about the going rate? The ones that lenders are promoting right now are really good. We do have an issue, however, with them being extremely low. That's part of what caused the 2008 crash, is we had what we called subprime lending. We were giving loans to people who could not afford it. However, the federal government has done very well in putting checks and safe measures in place to prevent this. There were 3 acts one was updated and 2 were created specifically to protect borrowers from taking out a loan that they really can't pay back, and preventing lenders from being predatory against these people and trying to give them loans that they know they can't pay back. So we're in a pretty good spot in terms of that. So I don't know that that's going to happen again, even though we have subprime lending currently taking place with certain financial institutions and banks right now. I think it's good to help homeowners recover, especially for refinance. I think it's going to do very well. For example, I keep receiving offers in the mail for my place to get it refinanced at a lot lower of an interest rate than I'm paying right now. So I'm going to be in the process in the near future of doing that. So definitely take advantage of that if you guys can. It'll free up some money every month. That's okay. Well, a note is a mortgage. It's a note and a mortgage. Yes. They're exactly the same thing. It really depends on how involved you want to get. Like I said, I deal mostly with passive investors, and when I invest, I want to be completely passive. If you want to buy a property in cash and then rent it out, you take on the tenants, you take on the toilets, you take on the termites, maintenance costs, vacancy, squatters, property managers, all the things that come with being a landlord. Whereas notes, it's extremely passive. You just sit, once you've picked it out and funded it and closed the deal, and you have your account set up with your servicer, you just get a deposit every month. That's why the slogan for my company is hands-off, hassle-free real estate investments. That's what I aim toward. That's what I'm passionate about. I think when people invest, they shouldn't have to watch it. I mean, how else do you live the life you want to live? You know, have money coming in that you don't have to work for if you don't do something that's passive. You know, if you're a landlord and you're getting calls at 3 a.m., that's not passive. You can't go on vacation and collect income like that. You have to get on the phone. You have to talk to a plumber to come out if something broke, or a contractor, or you have to have your property manager do it. Okay. Because it's passive. I mean, I have a full-time job that I started working, and honestly, when I first started into real estate, it was in wholesaling. There were a lot of courses being promoted online, like it said flip a property without having to fix it and stuff like that. And what they were pitching was wholesaling. And what I realized when I got into it was, this is a second full-time job. In order to do it well, you have to hustle, you have to market, you have to talk with people, which I was all good with doing. But it wasn't passive enough for me. And I bought a course a long time ago. I know I've shared this with you, and I'll share this with anyone listening today. If you want to learn about real estate. So if you're in real estate or getting into it, it's a very good book for beginners. It's very affordable, and it's only like $100. It's called A Simple Man's Guide to Real Estate. You get a lot more value and information than you pay for. And there's even a 1-year guarantee. If you don't buy a property within the year, you can get your money back. So you also get a mentor with it for life via email and stuff. It was very valuable. Some of the creative terms, because I do consult to real estate investors on buying houses creatively. A lot of the strategies I know came out of that book, and they were very confusing, and I had to read it multiple times to understand it. But they're strategies I've not heard anyone talk about. So it definitely was worth the money. It's $100. That was like, from what I learned, it feels like nothing. So that's good. I just really wanted to be passive. That's where I learned about notes, was in that book. He was talking about purchasing a property using a note. So basically giving someone a note as payment for a property. I said, wow, that's interesting. And he was explaining that from that point forward, the seller now is getting a monthly payment. I was like, wait, you mean when you buy a note, you just start collecting a mortgage payment like you're the bank? I'm like, whoa. So I started looking into it. I got a mentor. I found one who's been in the business over 40 years. He's been teaching me a great deal of stuff on how you can do things with notes that are pretty fantastic. And as a passive investment, it makes the best sense to me. I mean, I would love nothing better than to go on vacation and just get a text from my bank saying, hey, we just have deposited $240 in your account. And it's like, wow, I didn't have to do anything. Sometimes I get them at work and I look at my phone at work and I'm like, hey, look at that. And I put it down. I love it. Sure. So I'm tapped into the entire industry. So I have marketing that goes out, and I also do broker. I'm also a broker agent for a capital fund, a very large family of capital funds. So I have access to them. You know, I contact hedge funds. They buy mortgage notes, and so they also sell them off of their books. So I go ahead and look at their inventory just because of my connections. As an individual, they're hard to find on your own. You can find them. There are online platforms. However, again, you have to do all of the due diligence process and verification of things yourself to determine whether it's secure. And then you have to negotiate price. And that's what I take over for my passive investors. I take over that process. I find what I can, I negotiate, do all of the background underwriting and due diligence. You can absolutely sell it before it matures. You could sell it back to me. I'd make you an offer on it. You could sell it on one of those note trading platforms. If that's something you wanted to do, reach out to me and I could help you do that. Sure. Say it again. It is making sense. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So as a general investing, you want to look for stability. So for example, if you were going to take this over to the stock market, you would want to put your money in companies that are long-standing. For example, Facebook, I think for the foreseeable future is going to be around for a very long time still. It has a dominant presence. that's a worthwhile company to put your money into because it's shown stability over time. In terms of real estate, that's what notes do. Notes, we can verify a pay history. I can go through and see this person's paid for the past 6 years. Chances of them not paying is probably low, and we can mitigate risk that way. We can also make sure with a note that we're buying the note at less than the property's worth. So if something bad were to happen, the property's value protects us. We still end up profiting. So you always want to try to, I'm a very risk averse person in general, very, very risk averse. And so I'm always looking at how do you cover all of your sides if something's going to happen. And I found that notes gave me the most amount of options. Okay, well, here's all of my contact information. I also have just a basic about me page on scottslachter.com that you can learn a little bit more about me as well. You can search me out on Facebook or on LinkedIn. Those are the two platforms I use the most. You always use my direct line if you want, or my business email. I also want to add too that, after this, some people still are not comfortable with even looking into it. But if you wanted to get involved in notes, but you're not comfortable owning a note yourself, I am always looking to expand my family of private lenders to help me build out my own proprietary portfolio. In which case, the setup is basically the same, except you're not getting a note from a property. You'll be getting a note and a collateral assignment from me, which essentially does the same thing as a note and mortgage. I'll take a loan, I'll use that to buy a note, but I will pledge the note as collateral for the money that I'm borrowing, so that if I don't pay, my investor can simply take the note from me. And then they're protected by the property if the homeowner stops paying. Some people find that that's a little bit more comfortable for them. They just want me to go find them and buy them and handle everything, and they don't want to even set up an account with a servicer. In which case, I also automate that as well. My payment to my investor gets automated and distributed right off of the monthly payment that I receive. So I'm always looking to do that and expand my own portfolio. I'm happy to have that conversation if someone's interested in that versus buying a note direct. No, I just want to thank everybody for listening. I hope I've explained things in a way that's very clear and easy to understand. If you have any questions whatsoever, you can absolutely reach out to me and I will tell you to the best of my ability or try to break things down for you in a way that's understandable. If we do get questions that stump me, I have a pretty extensive network within the industry with 40 plus and more years experience. Some guys that have managed hedge funds and other capital funds, some very big players. So if I don't have an answer, usually I can get it to you within 24 to 48 hours. Yeah, it is. I'm excited about it. Okay, great. Yeah, absolutely. So the name of this I've called Notes and Alternative Investing. I did that because I also want to bring up some other types of passive investments I found that are not real estate related that I think are just still interesting to look at. Some of those are government insured bonds, I think are pretty interesting that we may talk about at one point. This is the initial focus and it's going to be about notes. We plan on having one meetup per month. It's going to be the first Monday of every month from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So after this presentation here, the next ones will have case studies on notes that people have bought, different ways that they can buy it or they can sell partial payments. And we'll look at what does the profit look like? What were the risks in this property? Because of course, every note, just like every house, has a little bit more risk depending on where it is. I obviously would not choose any of those for my investors. I'm not buying notes on property in high crime areas, for example, or rural areas where the population is very low and the property won't resell if something happens. I'm always looking for the most valuable areas where the job markets seem to be increased and where the level of income seems to be about mid-range. But we'll be talking about those types of things on there, as well as anything else that anyone has suggestions or ideas or things they want to know and been brought up on the meeting. They're happy to do that. What we're going to do is follow a general outline where we do introductions in the beginning, and then from there we move on to either a presentation or a case study, and then we'll leave the floor open for questions and we can just kind of discuss and share. And thank you. Great. Well, thank you again for having me on and helping me set this up. And this is great. I'm looking forward to having more people join and watch the group grow. I'm excited. All right, sounds good. Guys, have a good night, guys. Share.